Hey everybody, it's positive benzo withdrawal, and I am now 6.5 months off of clonazepam. I did a 15-month taper. My first 2 months were really fast. I went from 1 milligram to 0.25 in 2 months. The psychiatrist was trying to get me off the whole entire thing in 2 months, but the withdrawal was so bad that I ended up finding the Ashton manual and Benzo buddies and decided to slow way down. Plus I had to go back to work. I was incapacitated for those 2 months from 1 milligram to 0.25, and I had to go back to work. So I did the rest of the taper in about 12-13 months, from 0.25 milligrams to 0.002. So I did a lot of withdrawing during that time. I definitely feel like my brain was healing during that withdrawal process, going so slow. And I finally walked off and had an uptick in symptoms for a couple weeks, and then pretty much, was the same as I had been during the taper, having my good days, my bad days, windows and waves, healing symptoms. But I was steadily improving, and it was improving, and you can see in my videos that I think even like my 5-month video was feeling really good. I felt like I had turned a corner and had healed, and was like, wow, I feel like 75% healed. And then I had a setback. So it was not expected. I went back into like an acute wave, and I was there for about 2-3 weeks. I'm just coming out of it now. And to be honest with you, I was so sideswiped from like left field. I didn't have any of the coping skills I had lived with for so long and I was doing daily. I completely forgot like what I was supposed to do. I was just taken by surprise. Because I was just living a life like a normal person, pretty much. So I ended up going back and looking at my old videos and taking my own advice. But it was really hard. It was a very hard time. I didn't know when it was going to end. I saw that other people had had setbacks, and sometimes they didn't come out of them for a long time. So I didn't know what was going on. I do think the setback was caused by the fact that I thought I was fully healed, and so I was just like doing too much. I know now, like I learned a lot. One thing I learned is that I can't exercise the way that I want to or the way that I used to. I need to stay super mellow, and when I'm having windows and good days, it doesn't mean that I need to go balls to the wall and like jump around on the dance floor. I was doing way too much cardio, and I just didn't. My nervous system, I feel like now I understand. It's like, if your hip is in rehab and you've, had hip surgery, and then you go and try to run on it, it's going to put you back. You're going to be back in bed for a couple of weeks. And that's exactly what happened. I was trying to, my central nervous system is still healing, and I was trying to run around and jump around on this kind of fragile central nervous system, and it put me back in bed. And I had so many neurological symptoms that I hadn't experienced in a really long time, like the full body, full burning, like burn from head to toe. I still have a little bit of that. That's still there, but this was like, like pretty intense, and the inner shaking, cog fog, derealization, just the entire neurological gamut of symptoms. So it was scary, and honestly didn't know when it would pass. But about 3 nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night with my heart racing. I took my my heart rate was at 100, and my resting heart is usually about 60 to 70. And it was like this rush, was just like this huge wave. And I was able to lie down and was able to fall back asleep. And it kind of reminds me of when you have the flu and your fever breaks. The next day I felt better. Like not 100%, but I definitely felt better. And then yesterday was my full day of a window, except for then last night I had like a tiny bit of buzzing and a little wavy feelings. And then today I'm pretty good. I'm feeling some, a little, I think I did have some caffeine this morning. I mean, I was just like wanting to treat myself to a, what do you call it? Like it's a keto coffee, but I'm not really 100% doing keto, and I can tell you more about that. Anyway, it was just a little bit super watered down, but I think it did kind of rev me up a bit, which is of course that's going to happen with caffeine. But some of the things that I've changed, I haven't been to the gym in about a month. I haven't taken any dance classes in about that long. I think I was getting sick by going to the gym a lot. Like, it's the winter season and everyone and their mother has got like colds and flus, and it was my immune system isn't back 100%, so I've gotten sick a lot this season, and I decided, even for Pilates classes, I'm just not going to go until flu and cold season is over. So whatever, I'm not going to the gym. I've been taking really long walks by the marina where I live, and that's been great. And in terms of the keto diet, so I did keto for 8 months, and I've just decided to start doing things like bananas and oranges. And to be honest, I think I needed some glucose. I think I had been getting so the keto diet has been really good for me in increasing energy and clarity, but it stopped working. I think the more cardio I did, the less I was eating, and you get tricked. Like, keto is really good for losing weight. You don't have to even work out on it, because your body, when it's running on fat, it tricks you into thinking that you're not hungry anymore. So I wasn't eating, and I was doing all these dance classes, and I think I had depleted my body of glycogen and glucose, and I crashed. So as I've been sort of rebuilding, I've added in some more sugars, just fruit sugars. I've added in some cassava tortillas, which are like the total jam. If you have a Whole Foods around and can get a cassava tortilla, I just do it. It's very paleo, not so much keto, but it's been good. And I'm sleeping fine. I stopped taking as much melatonin. I think the melatonin was also, I don't know why I was taking 5 milligrams of melatonin. I don't need that much. So I'm down to just maybe 1 milligram of melatonin. I stopped taking the calcium magnesium supplement. I wasn't taking very much, 200 milligrams, but I'm just I don't know. I don't know what the deal was. So I just stopped, taking that, and that's been fine. So yeah, I don't know what, I just pushed something on my screen. Oh, look at that. Oh my God, I just discovered something on my phone. I've had this for years. I can make my face brighter. All right, I'm just gonna stop geeking out on there. Okay, so yeah, so I'm feeling better. I think my sense of humor is back. I'm thinking more clearly. I had to cancel a lot of work during that time, so it had me think I need to build in some long-term sustainability with my career, because I'm in post-acute withdrawal syndrome, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So that was my intro, catching you up on where I'm at, and then I want to talk about PAWS. So I've said this before, but I was on methadone maintenance for 3 years. So in my early 20s, I used heroin, and I was put on methadone maintenance. I was on it for 3 years, and I weaned myself off during that last year over 9 months. And then I finally got off at 10 milligrams. And I went through horrible withdrawal for about a month or 2 months. They actually put me on Valium, interestingly enough, which helped. But then he took away the Valium super fast. It wasn't I was weaned off. It was just sorry. So I didn't know anything. This was in the early 2000s. I didn't know anything about benzos or withdrawal from that or anything. Looking back on it, I'm oh yeah, that was too, you can't yank somebody off 10 milligrams of Valium, or maybe it was 2 milligrams. I don't know how much it was. But I did go through post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I went through it for about 18 months. And I remember the feelings that I had during that time from methadone opiate withdrawal was this electricity in my body. I felt like I had been plugged into a socket, and I used to tell people that all the time. I feel like I was plugged into a socket. I'm And did you ever see that movie Jacob's Ladder? Do you know that bald-headed person who's like shaking their head all the time? I felt like that. Like I was like, and now there's a name for it. I know that's akathisia, but at the time nobody told me that. We didn't have the internet. So I had this like buzzing and shaking. And then I also felt like somebody had left the door open in my body. It was like this cold, like breezy all the time going through my body. I had like a lot of post PTSD symptoms, which I think were just post-acute withdrawal. I felt really stupid, like stuck on stupid. And I always thought I had like permanently damaged my brain through all the drugs, because I just was like, huh? Like I don't understand. And then I had anhedonia, which is like a lack of feeling, just being like numb all the time, like no joy, not a lot of despair, just kind of meh. And I was at that time, I was in my like mid to late 20s and just made some crazy life decisions, like decided to pack up all my stuff and move, and just to get away from everybody and things and people. And I moved up to Oregon and I stayed for like a month, and then I called my friends and I'm like, come rescue me. And I came back to the Bay Area. I was just kind of out of it. But then I ended up meeting my son's father and I got pregnant. I had my kid, and I just kind of, that took me into another direction, and I think I healed eventually, right? And so I don't really think about methadone withdrawal. I don't, and at the time I was going through post-acute withdrawal, a lot of people, as I was in recovery in 12-step, and a lot of people talked about PAWS and they normalized it. And they're like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. And a lot of people were also getting off methadone and heroin. And so I didn't really like freak out too hard. I just was like, oh yeah, this is this thing that I'm doing, that I'm in. So fast forward all the way to now, which I'm coming up on. So I had I drank alcohol a couple times in between the time I got off methadone and 6 years ago. So I have my recovery, my clean date is now, I'm coming up on 6 years again. And so I took these benzos during while I was in recovery. So it's a whole different thing. My kid is older, I'm like stable, I have a career and all that. And so what I'm learning now is like 6 months out is like, yeah, there's post-acute withdrawal syndrome. I'm not even going to call it benzo withdrawal syndrome. It's just straight up post-acute withdrawal. Like everybody has it from every single drug. I have friends in the rooms of my recovery group that got off meth. And a friend of mine who's actually now a drug counselor is like, yeah, it took me 2 years to stop this, like having spontaneous sweating where suddenly it's just like bathed in like fluid, like sweat, and having like neurological zaps. And I mean, post-acute withdrawal is across the board. Yes, it's totally crazy in benzo withdrawal. Believe me, I understand. This is a different beast. But what I have to tell myself now that I've been through this like period of relative like windows and then this insane wave, is like, girlfriend, you got maybe another 18 months of you're gonna have symptoms. And just build it in. So stop thinking like you're healed or doing percentages. Just be like, yeah, post-acute withdrawal, it's another part of the healing process. We all go through it. Like I asked my sponsor the other day and I was like, am I ever gonna heal? It's just like, does withdrawal last forever? And she just started laughing. She was like, no, withdrawal doesn't last forever. You're going to be fine. And she was just laughing at me. And every time I start to think like I'm going to be stuck here, I just think of her laughing. And she was kind of laughing at me, but I didn't take it personally. I was like, oh yeah, like I'm being kind of ridiculous right now, because how many freaking, go to a room at like a recovery AA or NA and sit in that room and look at all the people sitting there that have time in recovery, and be like, every single one of those people had to detox and get off something to be sitting here. Now, not everybody had to go through such hard withdrawals, but a lot did. And it's 20 years has gone by. They're not going through withdrawal anymore. Like if you need the proof, go sit in a meeting of recovery. If I look online, all I'm gonna see is the suffering. So the things that I've done to get out of this, at least this mindset, is just, I went back to a couple of my videos, like the 25 things I did, the 10 things I did. And I'm like, I'm just going to recreate those things and just do them again. So walks, going to more meetings, reaching out, doing my step work, working with my sponsor, using my friends, like really leaning on the people that I've made really healthy attachments to during this process to help like pull me. Looks like I'm sponsoring Trader Joe's. Maybe Trader Joe's will kick me down a little bit for this video. Oh, and there's toilet paper for my son who's always sneezing. Anyway, so just things like that. I've changed my diet. I've added some bananas. And yeah, and I'm looking at ways to just really be gentle with myself and remember my nervous system is still healing, and don't be crazy, like don't be crazy, girl, like calm down. Anyway, I gotta head in. I've got clients, and I really love to know what y'all think. How are y'all doing? And let's just keep being there for each other. I mean, that's what we can do. Like, be there for each other, and also look into post-acute withdrawal syndrome to normalize this experience for you. And if you need to go talk to a drug counselor, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. They're the ones who get it. It's not the doctors, it's the freaking drug counselors. The detox center's problematic, but maybe find a good drug counselor to chat with about what you're going through. That's just kind of my advice for today. All right, y'all. Much love, peace. We are healing. We will heal. And as my sponsor said, no, you will not be in withdrawal forever. All right, peace.